safer America. And those two are intertwined because you can't have a strong and safe America, you can't have a prosperous America unless you have a safe America. And so prosperity and security, safety are all issues that are intertwined, and our budget reconciliation bill addresses all of the above. Starting, of course, with border security, where we make a generational investment in the border, starting with building the border wall, finishing the border wall, also allocating resources to Customs and Border Protection, to ICE to make sure that they have the resources they need, the technology, the equipment to do the job that we ask them to do to keep the border secure. When it comes to national security, we make an investment in the Iron Dome, or Golden Dome, I should say, and then also in our Navy and our Coast Guard to make sure that our country is safe and secure from threats and equipped to deal with the requirements of modern warfare. And so those are two fundamental issues that are addressed in our budget reconciliation bill. And I think when it comes to the issue of safety and security, all you have to do is look at what's happening and has been happening in Los Angeles to realize that our law enforcement needs all the support that we can possibly give them. So I'm going to hand it off to Senator Wicker, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, to talk a little bit about the things that we're doing in the Armed Services Committee's jurisdiction when it relates to making our country stronger and safer. Senator Wicker.
Thank you, Leader.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Leader, and I do appreciate the opportunity that the Leader has afforded me to be back at this particular spot and speak at this press conference. And also, I want to thank my colleagues on the Armed Services Committee and my colleagues in the conference for allowing me to have the honor and responsibility of being chairman of the Armed Services Committee. I would say one of the most important parts of reconciliation is our defense and national security portion. And it happens that it is the least controversial between the House and Senate and the administration. This is something that Chairman Rogers and I and our teams and our committees have worked on for quite some time. I really appreciate the product the House sent us. I appreciate the input the administration has given, and we are really of one mind. We have a package that bumps right up against $150 billion. It's $149 billion and change. We continue to make minor tweaks, but within the conference of Republicans and within the Congress as a whole and the administration, we're on the same page. This reconciliation package contains 13 new battle force ships, the largest ever investment in unmanned ships. And clearly the unmanned ships are out there to supplement the battle force ships, but we couldn't do it without either one. Dozens of new United States manufacturing sites, the ability to expand our military industrial base, drones, counter drones, and the Leader discussed what we've seen in the past few days concerning homeland security, but also in the last few days we've seen really historic events pointing to the necessity of using drones ourselves and how they can be used by our allies to neutralize much more expensive weaponry, but also the need for counter drones because that threat goes both ways. There is money in here for border. There's money for critical minerals. I'll be going to the White House this afternoon to meet with the Secretary of State and other members of Congress about the issue of critical minerals. We may do a little tweaking there, but it will be minor. And so just to say, this is a very important part. Quite obviously, we're going to vote for this, regardless of what minor details, because we must prevent this huge tax increase from going into effect in just a few short months and weeks. But I'm very pleased at the progress we've been made. And I appreciate the cooperation of everybody in the administration.
Chairman Wicker, can I ask you a question? Because you're wearing a Ukraine lapel pin.
Yes, I am.
And for every day the Russia sanctions bill languishes here, brings a worse night for the people of Ukraine. One is not going to end the other instantly. But are you prepared to wait out the president? Are all of you prepared to wait out the president on this when he seems to have lost interest in ending the war?
Well, you're making that characterization, not I. But let me just say that this is a matter that Senator Graham has worked hard on. I know he's working with the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, and my hope is that this bill can come to the floor within the next few days, perhaps next week.
Chairman Wicker, what is your...
I do not know the schedule of the leadership on that, but it is my hope that this sanctions bill will be passed. I think the House of Representatives will pass it by enormous bipartisan numbers also, and I think the president will sign it.
Chairman Wicker,
Yes,
what
sir.
is your biggest concern about sending these troops into the streets of Los Angeles and also doing this in an appropriate constitutional way, but also about concerns of having American forces on U.S. soil?
Well, I haven't spoken about concerns about that. Let me just say what.
Do you have concerns about
Let me just say what, and I'll answer your question. I was heartened to hear the mayor of Los Angeles say yesterday that her interaction with the American military, particularly the National Guard, has been one of collaboration. And to me, that's how it ought to be. It seems to most Americans that this is a very dangerous situation. And I really think the governor may be making a mistake there politically. When a situation is fraught with the possibility of extreme violence, it would seem that the governor and the mayor would want all the help they can receive. And the National Guard is now present. The Marines are standing off, as I understand it.
Would you be comfortable with the president sending National Guard to your state if your governor said that they didn't need them?
In similar situations, I would think the governor of Mississippi would be happy to help, to have all the help he could get. But the main thing I want to stress is that we have a very important reconciliation bill that puts $150 billion extra where it needs to be to make America safe. And that's the purpose of the leadership calling on me to make this presentation at this point. So I'll be happy to answer questions about reconciliation, about the battleships and drones and industrial plus-ups that this will mean for the American people, not to mention our standing internationally.
Chairman, do you still have issues with the Department of Defense budget request?
I think this package of reconciliation is where there is almost unanimous agreement. And yes, my position hasn't changed. When the skinny budget came out with basically a flat line amount for the next fiscal year, I expressed my disappointment, and my position hasn't changed on that.
Chairman Wicker, are we prepared for conflict in the Indo-Pacific? We heard you ask questions this morning about the fact that more than half of our amphibious ships are not ready. They're not mission ready for a conflict in the Indo-Pacific.
That was the testimony of the acting chief of naval operations. That was the testimony of the top Marine 4-star in the United States, and so there's no question that we're not where we need to be. I think my message to Americans now is that while we're basically all right when it comes to deterrence, the curve is headed the wrong way. Our adversaries are increasing their capability while ours is decidedly going in the wrong direction, and there's just no denying that. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, I'm happy to surrender the
The chairman.
On Los Angeles. Do you see any inconsistency when the president criticizes and condemns the violent Los Angeles protesters, but then pardons the violent January 6 protesters?
Well, I mean, I think the issue that's in front of us right now is the chaos in L.A. And clearly the local officials there, for whatever reason, didn't seem up to the task of getting the job done there. And I think that, as Senator Wicker pointed out, it's kind of a political imperative, honestly, because one of the most fundamental questions most people, most voters ask is my family safe? Is my neighborhood safe? Is my community safe? Is my country safe? And when you can't answer that in the affirmative, then you've got a problem. And I think that's what they ran into in L.A., which is why they needed some outside help. But at the end of the day, it's about preventing chaos and preserving law and order. That's what this is.
Is there a chance that no tax on tips and no tax on overtime get replaced in the big beautiful bill with, let's say, R&D tax credits or something else?
Well, I think that the president, as you know, campaigned hard on no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, Social Security, interest on car loans. Those are all things that are priorities for the administration, and they were addressed in the House version of the bill, and I expect they will be in the Senate as well.
Do you have any concerns about Secretary Kennedy removing all the appointees from the Vaccine Advisory Board, and do you still have confidence in the Secretary?
Well, I think most of us up here want to have confidence in the vaccine process that is used in this country. And so as he makes decisions about who he's going to put on that, who he's going to replace people with on that panel, I suspect my colleagues and I will be paying a lot of attention to that.
Is there a plan B for the debt limit if you don't pass reconciliation by next date?
There is no plan B. It's plan A. We have to get it done. Failure's not an option. One more. Well, I think there are always provisions, and when the House sends it over, they don't have the restrictions that we have to comply with here. And so my expectation is there perhaps will be some things that won't survive the Byrd test, the Byrd bath here in the Senate. But we obviously are going to fight very, very hard on all those issues and make our arguments in front of the parliamentarian, and that process is underway. We've already been doing it. Well, there are some examples, which I won't get into specifics, but as you know, the Byrd test, of course, requires that it be principally about revenue and spending and not policy. And so, but those are arguments. What we saw the Senate or the Democrats do when they had House, Senate, White House, unified control of the government, is they dramatically expanded the scope of what's eligible for consideration under reconciliation. And so we're using that template, and we're going to push as hard as we can for the priorities that the House included, in hopes that we can have a bill at the end that preserves as much of the work that the House did as possible.
Would you
Thank you all.
hold the parliamentarian?
Thanks for opening.